Karon ang nakakasada ko ang gita masaan sa paglingkod pila ka tuig gahigda sa salapit sa kadugay nga pagsalig sa butahing pakabuglay sa mga Pilipino walay konsensya gipadayon sa ato pagpurisyon way kapungko si digong di na nila mapansin muguwas ka matauran gipiit ang salarin mga abusado nga labaw dapat mahunong malagot kamo na ang nakasala dapat kamo ang masuk dati sige mo katawa mauning katapusan sariya sige himas kay nabagsak mong tanan hunong bayad syagit sa Pilipino taong bayad mga oligarko ay dapat lang masilutan hunong bayad ang tubig nagikan sa kalikasan magdungan tang tanan hunong bayad hunong bayad syagit sa Pilipino taong bayad mga oligarko ay dapat lang masilutan hunong bayad ang tubig nagikan sa kalikasan magdungan tang tanan hunong bayad
Prisuhon ang nagakabagay sa oligarko ibalik ang mga kwarta naging kawat nila sa tawo utak bayad sa Enero 1, 2020 utang ka mo nila isugid lang sa kay Duterte sa trilyon ka piso kantidad nga ilang aging bulsa doble-doble nga kaso ang ilang nga manging karma pila ka tuig na baka namit sa kwarta nga kinumpit sa mga tao mga tunto abusado pamerisyo wala ba ka mo naman dito sa inyo nga kinitaan o di mo nga imo nakuha nyo kaya nga gatasan gabi ka mo batasan hindi mabatasan ang inyong gahis ang una malais the way to heaven pero subong mapasan og sabay amen kay ara na si Digong wala sang makapugong oras na nga bukawon ang paminsano nyo nga lipong pamati ang singgit sa katawan nagasigabong utak bayad singgit sa Pilipino nga katawan utak bayad mga oligarko dapat nahatulan utak bayad ang tubig nga halin sa kalikasan tululungan tinatanan isinggit tigil bayad
Binulgar na ng Pangulo natin si Digong ang natiwalian ng mga oligarkong pugon tanging siya lang ang ating pag-asa na tutugon dito sa mga madugos na dapat nang makulong mga walang iya kayo mga walang pusok yahaman inaabuso kahinaan ng mamamayan asan ang pinapangako nyo ng magandang serbisyo pinako nyo na nga ginawa nyo pang negosyo grabe na kaya dapat lang matigil na ang kasakiman nyo na ugat ng problema ang tubig ay buhay yan ang inyong tandaan ngunit itong oligarko ginawa pang kabuhayan kaya ikaw na nakikinig nito sa mga mandarambong huwag ka nang magpauto imulat mo ang iyong mata buksan mo ang isipan mo huwag kang matatakot si Digong kakampi mo
tigil bayan sigaw ng Pilipino taong bayan mga oligarko dapat lang na maparusahan tigil bayan
ang tubig na galing sa kalikasan sabay-sabay tayo lahat tigil bayan
sigaw ng Pilipino taong bayan mga oligarko dapat lang na maparusahan tigil bayan
ang tubig na galing sa kalikasan sabay-sabay tayong lahat tigil bayan
sigaw ng Pilipino taong bayan mga oligarko dapat lang na maparusahan tigil bayan
ang tubig na galing sa kalikasan sabay-sabay tayong lahat tigil bayan
sigaw ng Pilipino taong bayan mga oligarko dapat lang na maparusahan tigil bayan
ang tubig na galing sa kalikasan sabay-sabay tayong lahat tigil bayan
Habulin ko talaga kayo. Habulin ko talaga kayo. Yayariin ko talaga kayo. Yayariin ko talaga kayo. Yayariin ko talaga kayo.
Tigil bayan! Tigil bayan! Tigil bayan! Sa 2020! Kapag pinutulan, tawagan si Digong sa numerong 8888.
Magandang gabi po sa ating mga katipan. Ngayong gabi, nandito po tayo sa ating palatuntunan, ang ating katipunan. Ako po si Butch Valdez at kasama po natin si Itos as usual. Ngayong gabi ay medyo importante po sa atin dahil po we will take the opportunity for us to deliver to you the State of the Nation of KDP. And it will include, of course, certain things which we hope the President by now would have already included in the State of the Nation that he will be delivering tomorrow. So I will be going through the whole, kung dito po sa ating palatuntunan, I'm going to be going through the whole 12 points of the of the suggested and proposed moves that the KDP would like to see in the SONA of the President. And after that, ang gagawin po natin, i-discuss natin po, kasama ko si Itos, kung ano ang kinakailangan sigurong konting elaboration, konting pagpapaliwanag pa. No? Pero ito pong umpisahan po natin ngayon without much ado, umpisahan ko na po itong delivery ng SONA 2020 ng Katipunan ng Demokratikong Pilipino. My dear countrymen, the task of confronting our political leadership today is one never before faced by any of the post-war administrations from Manuel Rojas all the way to Benigno Aquino III. President Duterte, who has, from his experience as a local government official, decided that the nation's problems centered on communist insurgency, warring Muslim factions, the threat of secession, and drug proliferation. To these, he concluded that he effectively addresses these issues with a strong military and an efficient police organization would suffice, as was his experience as mayor of Davao. Furthermore, as expected of a Mindanao politician, the idea of federalization of the country would suit well to solve the political and ethnic disparities of our region, of their region. 4 years since his phenomenal victory for the presidency, Duterte's report card on insurgency, war on drugs, Muslim secession issues are at best debatable. As if to admit his limitations, he publicly pronounces that he only promised to address criminality and insurgency, but that he leaves the running of the economy to his experts. So now, as the country and the rest of the world reels in the devastating effects of a pandemic, paralyzing whole economies with almost 50% unemployment rates and rising, threatening starvation of populations, killing much more people than the dreaded COVID-19 ever will, our lives are left in the hands of Duterte's economic experts to save. Or is it ever their intention to save our lives? The controversial Train Law 1 and 2 falsely claimed to finance the Build, Build, Build program does not in fact do as they say, since the infrastructure of roads and bridges are already funded through the long-term loans from China and other banks. These additional taxes are inflationary and unnecessarily raising the burden ultimately on the already suffering population. The rice tariffication law is another disingenuous scheme concocted by Duterte's experts to allow free importation of rice benefiting importers but grossly detrimental to our farming sector trying to survive debilitating conditions of life. These and some other similar measures are what the now infamous Duterte economists who are entrusted by the President with our lives are what we all can expect in the coming SONA tomorrow in the afternoon. We expect a wish list of what they would like to be the new normal. Empty rhetoric, but no concrete steps and programs to achieve these, and other than the usual and baseless hope for a vaccine to be discovered and for the rest of the world, as with it, to be saved. Ikatipunan ng Demokratikong Pilipino considers it its duty to share to our countrymen our own version of the true state of the nation 2020 and propose that the following initiatives be taken by the Chief Executive designed not only to assure our survival as a nation, but to redirect our economic policies towards achieving development through agro-industrialization and not rely on OFWs who have become the world's modern slaves as the principal means of our survival. We need to be aggressive in confronting the crisis and massive deterioration of life, rather than sit idly by, hoping it will all go away. First and foremost, we have to realize that post-1986 revolution, the economic advisors of Corazon Aquino and Fidel Ramos dismantled our infrastructure development program and transformed our economy from what would have been a producer economy to a service economy, focused on training and exporting our people to be the modern slaves of the world. Still here, we converted ourselves to be call center operators, servicing businesses in Europe and in the United States of America. Today, as the world economy starts to grind to a virtual halt, our country's leaders are at a loss on what to do to save the nation. The KDP submits herewith to the President and the Filipino people the following urgent steps for the survival and development of our nation. Number one, we propose that the President declare a state of emergency on the power sector to address the biggest cost burden on every Filipino household for the last 2 decades. Letter A, to suspend and review the EPIRA law and temporarily grant a 50% discount on all electricity bills for a period of 3 months, pending the outcome of the said review. Letter B, to restart the Bataan Nuclear Power Plant as soon as possible, despite the dilatory actions from concerned agencies like the Department of Energy, Department of Finance, the NEDA, and others similarly influenced by oligarchs involved in the power sector. Second, we propose that the President, while in a state of emergency, include the water sector, temporarily take over the management of waterworks system in Metro Manila, suspending concessions awarded to and pending resolution and payment of the debt of Manila Water and Maynilad for 20 years advance collections for the construction of a sewerage system in Metro Manila, which has not started to date. We estimate their collective liability to the people and establishments to be approximately 1 trillion pesos, as the President himself had publicly declared. Number 3, we propose to reverse by executive order the policy of privatization of all public utilities and move to nationalize all basic services particularly in electricity, water, telecommunication, mass transit system, and selected tollways. We consider that the public utilities must first benefit the public before all other private business interests, as government is mandated to protect the Filipino people and to promote the general welfare. Number 4, we propose to reinstitute the Oil Price Stabilization Fund to act as a buffer for the continuous price increases of the oil companies, leaving the motorists and transport and cargo truck businesses, and ultimately the consuming public, unprotected due to deregulation of the oil industry. 4 decades ago, this practice was implemented by government as a shock absorber from price hikes affecting normal business operations created by foreign oil companies operating in the Philippines. The situation has worsened when Petron, an oil company owned by the Philippine government, was privatized by then President Fidel Ramos, leaving the consuming public, the motorists, and businesses unprotected and at the mercy of foreign-owned oil companies. Number 5, we propose that our economic policy be reversed from being a service economy to one which is dependent on exporting our people's OFWs and call center agents to that which is oriented to development of the physical economy, agro-industrial projects, and the construction of infrastructure necessary for manufacturing of steel, pharmaceuticals, fertilizer, machine tools, shipbuilding, and other areas as directed by government. It will suit the people well if the President seriously considers replacing his economic team with one more competent, more courageous, and more patriotic. Number 6, we propose that upon a reversal of our economic policy, subsequently geared towards agro-industrial development, all other departments which comprise the cabinet must likewise immediately adjust to these directions, specifically in education, agriculture, health, public works, transportation, energy, and water, should be fully coordinated like a symphony under the baton of the President. The dissonant ones will be necessarily expelled. Number 7, we propose that the Department of Agriculture be given the urgent mandate to produce food by doubling, tripling, or even quadrupling its volume of production based on the highest scientific methods available, supported by infrastructural developments in energy and water. It is imperative that our country produce more than enough to sustain a growing and healthy population without needing to import its requirements. No country can call itself a nation who cannot feed its own people. The average per capita calorie intake of the Filipino is a little over 1,000 calories per day, whereas the United Nations considers that the standard calorie intake for a human being to function physically and mentally is 2,500 calories per day. Number 8, we propose that the Department of Health be immediately subjected to a thorough operations audit to accurately determine our real capability to provide our population with the health care they deserve. The COVID-19 pandemic has betrayed our utter incompetence and inadequate facilities and personnel, arousing suspicions of corruption and false reporting of the situation. The Secretary of Health must take full responsibility not only for the loss of credibility of his department, but his overall management incompetence and involvement in highly controversial issues, from his questionable evaluation of the dreaded disease to conflicts of interest to massive corruption. Number 9, we propose necessary measures to be taken by government to defend and protect the sacredness of the Filipino family, the fundamental structure of our society. From the destructive elements of godless ideologies, immoral television and radio programs, proliferation of drugs, miseducation, intent on corrupting the minds of our youth, to cause intrigue between their children and their parents. It is apparent that the most destructive of them all is the economic policy of exporting men and women who cannot find jobs here, which will enable them to feed and educate their children. We expect that the reversal of this economic policy will significantly address this malay, especially peace and order, suffered by our youth during these past decades. Number 10, we propose the immediate filing of appropriate cases against those involved in the Maguindanao, Mamasapano, and Kidapawan massacres. Though some Dengwaksha cases have been filed, we lament the fact that the Department of Justice seems not in a hurry to investigate the gravity of this heinous crime and not consider the distraught parents of hundreds, if not thousands, of children inoculated illegally and have died or suffer from permanent damage upon the orders of the previous president and the officers of the Department of Health. Number 11, we propose that the death penalty be reinstituted, covering but not limited to heinous and drug-related crimes, high treason, government officials committing plunder of 500 million pesos and above, fabrication and manipulation of election results of national positions, malicious and willful violations of the principal provisions of our Constitution. Number 12, we propose that the present Constitution be abolished and in its place a new Constitution be promulgated via a constitutional convention with the end in view of addressing the current needs of our population. A. Abolishing the COMELEC as the constitutional body mandated to organize, manage all electoral processes for all positions of government. The Commission is largely believed to be corrupt and inefficient, controlling the outcome of elections depending on the wishes of oligarchic interests and politicians' contributions. The result, as announced in previous elections for national and local positions, have been fraught with manipulation, computer machine rigging, dubious delays in announcing results. Letter B. No less than the President has proposed that the structure of government be changed from its present system of centralized form to a federalized form, creation of autonomous states governed accordingly. Letter C. Still others have preferred that the administrative and legislative bodies be changed into a parliamentary rather than the presidential system. A constitutional convention should be held soonest, before the end of the term of current administration, for implementation, hopefully, if possible, by the year 2022. Our party, the Katipunan ng Demokratikong Pilipino, expects the President to face squarely the most difficult problem he and the Filipino people will have to resolve. Together with our constituents, and most, if not all, the people, the collective clamor is to relieve us of the heavy burden imposed on us by the conspiracy of the oligarchs, government officials, and politicians, forcing us to pay the highest electricity rates in the world, paying among the highest water, mass transit, and telecom rates as well. Considering the unprecedented hardship Filipinos are currently experiencing due to a collapsing economy and the pandemic, we hope and expect the President to nationalize the public utilities with the end in view of dramatically reducing the heaviest economic burden of Filipino families. This is his most important decision to make as President of our Republic. Will he be true to his word that he will protect his people, all Filipinos, against those intent on doing us harm, even if it meant the loss of his own life? Or will he capitulate to the massive financial power of the oligarchs and allow them to take over our sovereign nation, now and succeeding generations? Tomorrow, July 27, will be the defining moment of the phenomenon known as Rodrigo Roa Duterte. Will he rise as a living Filipino hero, or will he renege on his promise and betray his countrymen by protecting the interest of the oligarchic few? We pray for his sake and that of our country that he makes the right choice. Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Okay, balik po tayo dito sa ating katipunan at kakatapos ko lang po i-deliver ito pong KDP SONA 2020. Ito po ang KDP, ang Katipunan Demokratikong Pilipino proposal na mailagay ng ating Pangulo sana dito sa kanyang darating na SONA bukas. Kung hindi ko po alam kung ito nga ang tututukan niya bukas at natatakot ako baka iba ang kanyang sabihin. What do you think he does?
I don't think hindi po ako confident na ito yung tututukan niya. I think he will announce certain things like ABS-CBN and other things, but ito pong economic system, ito pong oligarkiya, kahit medyo umaasa tayo, medyo hindi po, yung realidad po, iba. Yun lang yung pananaw na.
Sa palagay mo ba, Itos, tinatanong ko din ito sa mga ibang mga kaibigan, mga ibang kakilala. Kung alam niya na ganito ang dagok sa atin ng mga itong oligarchic system of the privatization, does he really know the impact on the Filipino family by this privatization program? Yung pagbibigay niya ng kuryente sa negosyo kuryente dito at dito. What do you think?
I don't know kung alam po natin, nothing in the last 4 years po na will give us any indication na he wants to change the economic policy of the country. Yes, actually nag-complain lang po siya about oligarchy when sumingil na po yung Manila Water and Maynilad na kasi nanalo sila sa arbitration case dito sa Singapore. So nagalit siya, nakita niya kung ano yung mga yung unang-una niyang ginawa, tinanggal niya yung Mighty cigarettes, di ba? Tinamaan rin po niya yung si Ong Pin. Yung Bobby Ong Pin under that. But then yung gaming, yung casino, remember? Pero after that po, yung policies that he implemented, sabi niya wala na daw, hindi naman daw siya ekonomista, so he leaves it to his economic managers. Lahat po ng kinuha niyang economic managers, hindi po natin alam kung sino nag-aabiso sa kanya. Kung sino ang kunin nilang managers, we can only speculate. Pero kilala na natin yung mga yun eh. So they had been running the economy since Fidel Ramos.
Right.
So the direction po, pareho pa rin.
Yan sila, sila Benjo,
yes,
Dominguez brothers, tapos itong
so
mga ibang parang UP economists,
yung School of Economics, na wala siyang bagong programa or economic. Ang ginawa niya, siguro tinanggal niya yung certain areas of corruption, kinuha niya, tapos ito, binigay niya, he helped increase salaries or he helped push the salaries of the military, police, yung mga ganun po. Maganda po yun, pero it will not change anything. That will not last. Because the economic policy is the same. So, going back to your question, obvious, kahit sino po, sabihin natin, gusto nyo ba ng 50% discount sa electricity na binabayad? Opo, bakit hindi? Pero I doubt na magagawa niya yung
nitong presidente.
Yes.
Alam mo,
because it's a whole policy and may mga epira.
Right. Well, I'm just saying that sa atin, of course may epira, pero yung 50% discount na sasabihin natin, habang rini-review yung epira, dahil COVID situation tayo, dapat talagang maggawa siya ng across the board, magbawas sa bayad sa kuryente, dahil naghihirap na ngayon talaga ang mamamayang Pilipino. So I just said, okay, for 3 months or while pending the review of the epira. Now I just wanted to bring you back to last December. Nung pumutok siya at nakita niya na sinisingil pa tayo nitong mga ito ng Manila Water.
Nanalo kasi
ng ilan? 7 o 10 billion pesos.
10 billion
Supposedly nanalo sa arbitration court. Alam mo itong mga arbitration court na ito, yung may duda na ako dyan, mga house-show yung mga yan. Diba? Besides, bakit tayo dadalhin sa arbitration court? Ang gobyerno ay may karapatan sabihin, oy, ibaba nyo yan, yung sinisingil nyo sa taong bayan. No? At kung hindi nyo ibababa, mawawala sa inyo ang concession na ibinibigay namin. Hindi ko naman alam kung bakit hindi mo na meron tayong
We're fixing the technical. Sige lang. Go.
Okay na. Ayos ka na. Okay. Hindi ko naman alam. Saan na ba ako?
Yung arbitration.
Arbitration. Okay. Kung bakit itong mga tiga-gobyerno natin, sila Fidel Ramos, na nagbigay ng concession dito sa Manila Water at Maynila, na papayag sila na kung papasok ang gobyerno para pigilin ang kanilang pagtataas ng singil, pwedeng dalin ang gobyerno natin sa isang korte sa labas ng Pilipinas. Sa akin, ubod ng katangahan siguro, no? O kakontsaba nila itong si Ramos dahil gumagawa ng paraan na ang gobyerno hindi makakapaggawa ng pagtatanggol sa buhay ng mga mamayang Pilipino.
Yes.
It ties the hands of the government, no, purposely, so that it cannot help the Filipino people. So this is the thing that is really, to me, totally irregular and so much like criminal. Okay. Having said that, when Duterte found out that this is being done, and he saw the gravity of what had been collected from all consumers for the past 20 years, supposedly to put up a sewerage system in Metro Manila. 20% of what we were paying as water bills must go to the sewerage system construction. For 20 years po, wala pong nagawang sewerage system itong mga ito. Ang total na nakolekta nila sa taong bayan para dito sa sewerage system, sa 20 taon, halos umabot na po ng 1 trilyon. So sinabi niya, this is the biggest corruption in our country. Galit na galit po siya. Yang mga smuggling ng droga, yang mga kung ano-anong crime, yan mga pagnanakaw sa gobyerno. Sabi niya, ito ang pinakamalaking korupsyon sa ating bansa. What is he talking about? The business that has been given to them by previous administration, given to the oligarchs, no, to basically to exploit the people. He was only talking of water. No? Hindi pa nabubuksan ang kuryente na mas malaki pa di hamak sa tubig. Yun ang sinabi ng presidente noon. No? Kanya ngayon, at sabi niya, ipapakulong niya yung mga yan. Sabi niya, kakasuhan niya ng plunder. Sabi niya, because this is prima facie, syndicated estafa. Yun po ang hahanapin sa kanya ng taong bayan ngayon. Because that is what he said, the biggest, at ramdam na ramdam ng taong bayan, ang pagnanakaw nito mga ito, at pag hindi niya inayos at itinuloy, pinatupad yung kanyang mga banta, baka hindi naman maniwala sa kanya ang taong bayan yan.
I have, kasi may tinanong ako sa mga kaibigan nating abogado. Sabi nila, yung mga private companies daw na mag-i-invest dito sa mga utilities, ayaw daw nila dito yung kaso. So they go to a place like Hong Kong or Singapore where, because daw, dehado sila. Siyempre, gobyerno kalaban nila. So, but again, to your point, dapat naman in favor of government lahat naman yan eh.
Yes.
That's the whole point kasi binibigyan kayo ng pagkakataong kumita pero wag naman yung ganito. So, sabi nila, they refuse to sign daw cases, deals dito, kailangan doon. Tapos international lawyers pa ang nag-handle doon. Parang gano'n. So,
Correct.
may arbitration sa Singapore. The number one. The other one is, don't you think, yung question ko po is, don't you think itong ginagawa sa Kongreso nila Mike Defensor, nila yung nakita natin po na, about ABS-CBN and the franchise issue. Now they're looking at EPIRA. By default, pupunta rin yan sa utilities eh. Maybe not specific kasi hindi sila yung dapat makita, no? But they're discussing EPIRA and Meralco. Ang fear ko lang po, baka doon lang sila sa mga Lopezes. Diba? Tumigil. After wala na yung mga Lopezes kasi parang pinupunterian na yung Lopezes eh. Parang they're focused on them and their businesses involving electricity and water. But shouldn't this be a continuing investigation regardless, diba?
Of course, I agree with you. It must be continuing and open. Like it's a Pandora's box. No? Ang nagbukas po dyan yung Lopez Empire.
Yung
no?
ABS.
Nakita nila yun sa ABS. Nung kinalkal nila, lumabas ang mga anomalya na napakalaki. 1.9 trillion ang utang ng mga Lopezes. Dito pa lang sa mga black box nila. No?
Just on the black box.
Just on the black
The
box.
TV Plus.
Pero totoo yan, kinakailangan ilabas lahat. At itong inaasahan po natin dito sa mga magigiting na congressman whom I never expected to be as brave and resolute in their decision. Alam niyo po, napakadaling magdesisyon pabor sa mga Lopezes tungkol diyan sa franchise, di ba? Kikita pa sila, mabibigyan pa silang pera nila Lopezes, no? Masaya pang ganyan, wala pa silang kalaman. Pero sila nanindigan, no? And you have to give credit where credit is due, no?
Not to
Mas
the president.
well, ang presidente, hindi ko alam kasi dito sa pagtatanggal ng franchise, palagay ko hindi naman ginawa nila Remulla yan dahil inutos ng presidente. Nakita nila kung gaano kalaki ang ang problema, no?
Hindi lang labor issues,
Right.
ang dami pa.
So hindi nila matalikuran itong mga datos na nakikita nila na kung paano nagnanakaw itong mga Lopezes. So that's where it opens, no? And then pagkatapos ngayon susunod nilang iniimbestiga sa kuryente naman, no? At ako naman ay natutuwa na inumpisahan nila bago pag-usapan ng Meralco, inumpisahan nila yung EPIRA law, no?
Right.
Ano ba yung EPIRA law? Is it an onerous or an immoral contract, or is it good for the people?
Right.
Katulad po nung sa tubig, dapat ang usisain po natin sa tubig, itong mga kongresista, ang usisain nila yung concession agreement, yung kaumpisa, hindi yung utang for the past 20 years. Okay na yung given na tayo. But this contract that government and businesses went into, this is what I mean. Hindi po makukuha ng oligarko yung mga concession na yan kung hindi ibibigay sila sa kanila ng mga gobyerno, ng opisyalis ng gobyerno. Therefore, if it is onerous and immoral, there may be a conspiracy between these two. At kumikita yung sa gobyerno, kumikita din yung nasa mga oligarko. Ganyan na rin sa EPIRA.
Kung hahayaan natin na tuloy-tuloy yung investigations on this at ilabas natin sa Kongreso lahat ng lahat ng detalye ng kontrata, by default, shouldn't we question the policy, which is number 3 on the KDP list?
Ito nga ang sinasabi natin, no? Kung nandyan na tayo sa tubig, andyan pa yung sa kuryente,
Lahat ng anomalya,
may nakita natin. Ito yung mga tinatawag natin basic services. Public utilities. Kanya po tinatawag yan na basic services at public utilities. Ang una pong dapat makinabang dyan ay ang publiko at hindi po ang negosyante. No? Kasi ang negosyante, isa lang ang pakainan. At kikita. Magkano ba kikitain ko at paano ko bang papalakihin ang kita ko? Para pong aso yan eh. No? Yun lang ang kanyang direksyon. Bahala na ang gobyerno, bahala na ang ibang tao sa kapakanan ng taong bayan. That is a role of government.
Yes.
Now, you give these public utilities to businessmen and tie your hands so that you will not protect the public. You are criminal. It is a criminal act to do that. It is treasonous. No? Because you have abdicated your role to protect the citizenry.
Uphold the general welfare
Uphold the general welfare.
in the Constitution.
Iyan po ang talagang punot dulo ng dapat maintindihan ng ating Pangulo. And this, to me, is what will define whether he is a traitor to the people, no? Or he is a living patriot and hero for the country. Yung po ang mangyayari ngayon.
So,
Pag hindi niya isinama itong napaka-importanting issues na ito.
So seeing that, tomorrow is State of the Nation.
Yeah.
Okay. He has, realistically, 2021, he has about maybe a year and a half
Yeah.
left in his administration.
Yeah.
Realistically, assuming, sabihin niya bukas, sabihin na natin, ituloy natin investigation, despite po yung medyo bumawi siya na mahipagkaibigan daw siya. Assuming,
Nag-apologize pa siya.
apologize or sabihin ng Maynila and Manila Water, deal na lang tayo. Pero tuloy pa rin yung concession agreement, right? Assuming ginawa niya, or assuming sunundan niya yung ating mga nais, KDP, and defense the Filipino people, he has 1 year and a half remaining. What is the realistic steps that he has to take? Assuming, sabihin niya, bukas we will take over now these utilities. What do you advise him to do?
Well, exactly what we're saying dito sa ating proposal, no? Na kinakailangan mag-declare siyang state of emergency at kunin na niya, i-nationalize niya itong lahat ng public utilities. At I say this not only because of patriotic reasons, but this is for economic reasons. No? Dahil po makahuhusay po sa palagay ko ang ating ekonomiya kung gagawin niya ito. Bakit po? Sabi ko sa kuryente na lang. Kuryente na lang. Ang kinokolekta ng power sector from power generation, power transmission, at power distribution. Kada taon ng siguro mga 10 oligarko lang dyan, ang kinokolekta nila every year is I think 1.5 trillion pesos. 1.5 trillion pesos. Ang kakayanin po yan, napaandarin lahat ng kuryente, distribute, transmission, kulang pa sa 500 billion pesos a year. Ngayon, kung kukunin po ng gobyerno yan at ibababa ang halaga ng kuryente ng 2/3 or even 50%, ano pong mangyayari? para ka na rin nagbigay ng 1 trillion pesos sa taong bayan.
Cash.
Cash, because ito yung babayad nila sa Meralco at ang gagawin mo, kalahati lang ang babayad nila. So para mo na rin binigyan sila. Hindi po ba? Yung mga negosyante, ganyan din ang mangyayari. So what had happened is the government had in effect pumped in
Yes.
money into the hands of the consumers and the businesses, no, without printing money,
Right.
without borrowing from some banks.
Mm.
All you did was nationalize and bring down the price of electricity and water and all other public utilities. Yung sinasabi kong 1.5 trillion ay kuryente pa lang yan. Eh yung tubig, ganyan din. Hatiin mo. Yung mass transit system, yung telecom, di ba? Yung telecom, tingnan nyo ang nangyayari ngayon. Tayo ng isa sa pinakamataas na binabayaran sa cellphone na etong ano natin, yung mga rates ng ano. And yet we are the most, or we are the least efficient, or the most inefficient no, in terms of telecom industry. In other words, they would rather be inefficient because their profits are very high. Now, if you nationalize this, because when I say nationalize, tatandaan nyo po, ang telecom, mass transit system, ang water and electricity, pati na rin itong mga healthcare sa hospitals, ay pag-aari po ng gobyerno yan. Atin po yan. At ang ginawa po natin, ibinigay natin sa mga negosyanteng pribado para sila na ang magpatakbo.
Yan ang tinatawag na privatization.
Ito yung privatization na ginawa. Nung binigay po natin ito, para mo nang binigyan ng negosyo ang ibang tao. Pero dapat, yung kapakanan ng taong bayan, hawak mo pa rin. Para hindi nila aabusuhin. Ang ginawa nitong mga gobyerno natin nakaraan, sila pa ang gumawa ng batas para matali ang kamay ng gobyerno na hindi nila matulungan ang mamamayang Pilipino.
Yan ang sinasabi nilang regulatory capture.
Right. This is treasonous, immoral. This is not just a mistake in
Economic policy.
or a mistake in coming up with a contract. No. This is done on purpose. And when you say they exploit the public of this, no, you're actually creating the conditions for a higher mortality rate of your population because you push them into a higher level of poverty. And poverty means high mortality. No?
Gusto ko lang, again, going back to my question, ano yung next step? I-nationalize mo, sasabihin mo, siyempre magpoprotesta yung mga oligarchy, the ones who own these companies. Sasabihin na, we invested how many years? Put in money. Kaya kumikita kami ganyan, but yun ang agreement natin eh. So ina-nationalize mo as a president, kung ikaw po yung nakaupo, how will you approach them and tell them?
First of all, I'll ask, okay, you said these are the companies that we have given to you, and you said that you had invested.
Okay.
Each one of you, let us study what was really invested.
Okay.
Or what was borrowed, no? And the banks have lent us, no? And you have
So you do an audit.
na mag-audit ka kung gaano kalaki ang talagang pinasok
Pinasok mo.
niyong pera.
Okay.
So eto na, alam na natin ito. Gagawa ako ng paraan, sasabihin ko, babayaran namin yan, ibabalik namin sa iyo ang tunay na investment ninyo. First of all, kailangan alam natin yung tunay na investment.
Okay.
No?
Okay.
Pangalawa, porque natanggal natin sa public utilities at ang gusto natin, agro-industrial development mode, no? We e-engganyo natin itong mga oligarkong to na pumunta sa mga importanteng industriya na kinakailangan ng ating bansa.
Na hindi public utilities.
Na hindi public utilities. Kasi doon dapat ang mga industrialists. Itong mga ito, nabigyan ng parang gatasan. Gatasan ang ginawa sa atin. At binigyan nito ng negosyo, itong sila Ramos, binigyan nilang negosyo itong mga oligarko. Sigurado, merong balik yan sa mga nagbigay ng negosyo. Tingnan nyo, kung sasabihin natin, kunwari sa mga Aboitiz, Mr. Aboitiz, dito kayo pumunta sa gawaan ng bakal, steel manufacturing. Or Ramong Nang, you go to fertilizer manufacturing.
Agriculture.
Or pharmaceuticals, or shipbuilding, or machine tools, and so on, smelting plants. Okay, pero ang gobyerno, sisiguraduhin, tutulungan kayo. Bibigyan kayo ng mga credit tax incentives, tutulungan kayo sa pag-uutang, gagarantihan ng gobyerno ang murang pag-uutang. No? Uutang sila on a country-to-country basis para mabigay dito sa mga industriya.
Can they use a national banking instrument to do that?
They can, no?
Because you're dealing with government.
Yes. For example, uutang tayo sa China. Mr. China, gagawa kami ng steel plant. Kami ang kami ang garantisado dito. Ilalagay natin dito sa steel plant na ang magtatayo dito ay privado sektor.
Like say SMC,
Oo.
infrastructure.
Tapos babayaran ka namin, no? Kasi sa government to government, napakaliit po ng interest.
Yes, right.
Matagalan pa yan. Babayaran ka namin every year for the next 30 years.
Right.
Ganyan, no? Ang gusto sabihin, ang burden nito, mas mababa. Hindi lang yon. Dahil binabaan mo ang kuryente, mababa din ang bayad nila sa kuryente. Aandar po yung mga industriyang yan. At pag nandyan po yung mga industriya, ito pong mga dadagsaan OFW na walang trabaho, no? Diyan natin po sila ida-direct. No? At
trabaho sila.
kukulangin pa po tayo dahil sa development.
Parang si FDR na.
Right. So you see, this is not just debating whether privatization is good or not. This is not just debating whether they owe us 1.9 trillion or 1 trillion pesos, no? Or, this is more than that.
Yes.
But this is the vehicle where we can use in order to achieve that development mode for the country. So it is very important. Salamat at nabibigyan mo akong pagkakataon na itos, mapaliwanag ng mabuti itong ginagawa natin. This is not just being a nationalist or patriotic. Nandyan na tayo, no? Kasi marami naman sa atin nationalist and patriot. Pero ito po ang kakaibahan ng ating economic program. Dito sa economic program na isinusulong ng mga taong yan na sila Benjo, no? Yan sila Sunny Dominguez, at sila Chua, kung ano-ano pang ginagawa nila. It has nothing in the line of this development. And the reason for this is not that it is just a better system. We need this in order to survive and develop. We need this. This is not just a contest between two economic methods. School of thought. No, this is what we need because we are facing the biggest economic and health crisis this country has ever experienced. And it will get worse. And if you don't do these moves, we will not have anything. I doubt whether we'll even reach 2022.
Yun lang, gusto ko lang idagdag. Sabi po ni Kaboch na this is not just a debate of two economic theories and two modes of because we need this. Ang idadagdag ko po, I think it's pretty apparent yung resulta po ng ating mga policy in the last 30 years. The results are out, and our people are suffering more than they ever did before these policies were enacted.
Right.
And the reasons that they enacted it were spurious at best, parang fake news. Eh, sabi na, kailangan natin ng investment, wala na tayong pera pang-invest sa power plant, wala na tayong pera pang-invest sa tubig. So kailangan itong private sector, PPP, public-private partnership, privatization tayo, they will take on the burden of building new systems and in return to recoup their investment, they get into this. Yun po yung sinasabi natin. Ngayon yung resultang nito. We are paying the highest. Remember sa EPIRA po, ang sinasabi po nila, bababa yung electricity rates kasi free market. Bababa daw, ang dami kasing sources. Never happened. Tapos we are paying, not just it never happened, we are paying the highest electricity sa mundo. So, this privatization, deregulation, globalization policy, which was done after 1986, and until today is the same kind of policy and same kind of economic thought that is being pushed on our government by the same guys who are still there, has failed. Bumagsak yan. Kasi yung metric for how they failed is yung tao lalong humihirap, nagugutom, namamatay. Mali eh. So, if this current president may chance pa po 1.5 years to steer the country in a different direction and hoping that the next president, if there is an election, the next president takes up this, and with our Congress asserting their right as a sovereign state and as a sovereign country against these laws, then we have a chance as a nation po, may future po tayo. Otherwise po, wala na. Kaya sinasabi po ni Kabuch, we need this now. Otherwise, ang daming mamamatay. Ngayon pa lang, daming na namamatay. Pero if this is not turned towards where we see where the KDP wants it to go, we will have, ngayon pa lang sa baseball stadium sa Rizal, nakikita mo na eh. Imagine kung lahat yan umuwi, may trabaho. Wala na tayong OFW. Imagine. Kaya po natin yun eh, kasi nagawa na dati eh.
Yeah, there is no, from the time that Cory started, there has not been any one president that had seen to it that we would try to get back our people because of the development here. What they did was promote. We kept on exporting our people because that's the only thing that we can really export, our people. No? This is not the way an economy should work because it is like committing suicide. And this is what is happening. Since those people that have been sent abroad have contributed to the productivity of wherever countries they are working. And so, if, however, you created the conditions here so that their skill, their knowledge, and their labor can be used here, the development of the Philippines is going to be much, much faster and much better because it will be providing for the next generation. Ano ba ang gusto nyo? Na itong mga OFWs, ang mga anak nila din, OFW na din, at yung mga apo nila magiging OFW. Ganyan na po ang napapasok sa isip ng mga tao ngayon. Kanya mo inaalagaan ng isa mong anak, no? Papaaralin mo, ganyan. Para maging OFW din siya. Kakaawa eh. Dahil napakababa ng tingin natin sa sarili natin. Alipin ng mundo.
Yung isang presidente, sinabi pa, hero sila.
Ano na yun eh, di ba? Sabi ko nga nung nandun ako sa, I was before in Department of Education, and I said, if we are I admit, of course, that it is very difficult for people to go abroad and leave their families. And they, to that extent, are the heroes because they're sending money to the Philippines and helping the Philippine economy. I said, but if that's all we want, if that is the direction of our country,
Papadala.
then I said, we do not need the Department of Education. Hindi natin kailangan ng Department of Agri. Mag-ano na lang tayo, Department of OFWs. Tama, yun ngayon. Huwag na yung education. Kasi ang education, dapat inaano mo yung, tinuturuan mo yung mga kabataan para maging ang talagang heroes natin. Jose Rizal, Polinario Mabini, itong mga magagaling na Pilipino na kaya natin.
Who wanted an independent, sovereign country.
Yes.
So we decide on our own. We are not servants of other nations.
Yes.
Yan ang ating history. Diba? I wanted to go back to, I think it was number 8 or something. You mentioned po yung OPSF.
Yes.
How will that work today? I mean, in the 70s, it was put by Marcos, diba?
Yes.
So I wanted a little explanation of why we say we should bring that back.
Well, the OPSF is the Oil Price Stabilization Fund. Isa pong pondo yan na linilika. No? Paano nililika yan? Kukuha ba tayong budget dyan? Ang ginawa po ni Pangulong Marcos noon ay hindi siya gumawa ng pondo galing sa gobyerno. Ang ginawa niya, yung habang nakakabenta ng gasolina, no? Ang usapan niya, yung ₱1 doon sa pagbili ng gasolina ng tao, ibubukod yan, no? Para mag-build up ng isang pondo. They will put it aside to call it the Oil Price Stabilization Fund. Kung sakali, for example, ang presyo ng gasolina ay 40 pesos per liter. Yun ang hinihingi ng
Oil producer.
Ang gagawin lang yan, piso dun sa oil. Sasabihin nila, kung kukuha ka ng piso, gagawin namin 41. O sige, 41 pesos. Yung piso dun, ibubukod at ibibigay sa gobyerno. May ipon ngayon yung pondo. Ngayon, pag darating ang panahon, gusto nilang magtaas ng halaga ng gasolina, ang gobyerno sasabihin, tingnan mo na, bakit ba? Kaysa kailangan natin ang price ng oil sa Saudi Arabia, ganito. O sige, magkano kakailanganin? Ganito. Saan kukunin ngayon? Dito sa pondong to.
So para siyang sangga.
Sangga is a shock absorber. No? Para itong presyo ng gasolina dito sa mga consumers ay hindi na-apekto. Kasi kung ganyan ka ng ganyan, no? Itong presyo dito ma-apekto. Yung bilihin ng pagkain, bilihin ng iba-ibang tina-transport mo, ganyan, at mga motorista, no? Apektado.
Okay.
Kaya ginawa nila yon. It is
Buffer?
It's a buffer. It's a buffer fund.
But it's like it's a temporary fund, right?
Well, not necessarily for as long as you can hold it. But it correctly better to correct definition of it. It is a partial re-regulation. Kasi ngayon, pag ginusto ng oil companies magtaas,
Shell, sabi mo.
wala kang magawa. Right? Pero bakit partial? Ngayon, pag sinabi ng oil companies, pagtataas kami, no? Tayo muna, sige, magkano ba ang taas nyo? Ito na yung gobyerno. No? O sige, alam na itong oil companies na may buffer fund. Tapos, doon sila kukuha. But it must be justified. Doon sa pondo. At habang may buffer fund, itong OPSF, no? Hindi nagkakaroon ng shock hindi na nagugulo yung normal operations ng mga
Businesses,
consumers.
consumer, economy.
Now, it's not permanent that the price will stay there.
Right.
Kasi the conditions might be so dramatic na kakailanganin talaga magtaas. Pero hindi agad-agad. Ibig sabihin, matatimingan natin yan. It will rise,
Mamamanage.
it will rise, so on, so. Ngayon, sabihin, every week nag-rise no? Aatras ng ilan
May
araw.
gulo sa Middle East, tataas yun.
Ganyan. Maski on news pa lang, ha?
On news.
May
Di pa sigurado.
gera lang dito, eto na, no?
O baka magkaroon ng gera.
Ganyan po ang, kasi, again, we tied our own hands, no? To allow the oil companies to dictate. Alam mo niyo po, ang gasolina natin, ha? Mas mahal pa sa Amerika, no?
I wanted to ask about Petron then. What was the relationship of the Petron and oil price tab, or are they separate?
Well, separate ang OPSF. Marcos put up Petrophil, no? Or Petron, no? It was a Philippine-owned oil company. Alam mo kasi ang mga oil companies, they don't have to be producing the oil. Bumibili lang yan sa kung saan bumibili ang Shell, kung saan bumibili ang Caltex, no? Meron mga binibilhan. Etong Petrophil, siya rin bumibili. Tapos, magbebenta din ng gasolina. Pero kung gobyerno siya,
Gobyerno may-ari.
gobyernong may-ari, pag ginusto nitong mga ito tumaas ng presyo,
Caltex or Shell.
at ang gobyerno ay hindi, sabihin niya, hindi kami sasabay dyan. Gusto nila 40 pesos, kami dito 32 pesos. Ano pong mangyayari? Yung mga motorista hahanap po ng Petron. Kasi mura. No? Ayaw na ayaw nito.
Right.
Okay? Ang sinabi sa atin ng IMF, kailangan i-privatize nyo yan.
Pero yung oil price, how does the
May
OPSF?
computation eh.
Pero yung OPSF in relation to Petron, ganun rin, they contribute.
Ganyan din, they get 1 peso. Pero,
yung, in other words, yung profit ng Petron will be dictated on by government.
yes.
Ito lang, kahit konting-konti yung profit natin, kahit break-even pa yan, or whatever, para lang sa mamamayan yan.
Of course.
Hindi ka.
The reason mayroon po tayong Petron, para kompetensya sa Shell tsaka sa Caltex. Para hindi sila, that's another way of trying to keep the price down. Pero ano pong ginawa ni Ramos? Binenta yung Petron sa dayuhan. Una sa dayuhan, sa Aramco.
Saudi Aramco.
Tapos, ngayon, ang binili ni Ramon Ang. No? Pero, pareho na rin ang kanilang pag-utak, hindi gobyerno.
Privado.
Negosyante na rin.
Privado.
No? So, hindi na tayo tutulungan dito sa pagbaba ng mga halaga ng gasolina.
So ngayon po, with regards to oil, do you think government should also put up a national oil company like Petron, or just on the OPS?
Even before that, I think we should go concentrate on developing our nuclear development program. Kasi ang use of oil is not just cars. No? Hindi lang po cars. Ang use of oil is used by industries and everything. No? Pero ngayon, ang nagpapatakbo ng mga generators natin, no? Are coal and oil, no? Natural gas. Yan ang nagpapatakbo. Kanya medyo mahal. Ngayon, pag meron kang nuclear, yung kuryenteng gagamitin mo, bababa ang halaga para dito sa mga pangangalakal. No? Ngayon, gusto sabihin, ang total use ng energy mo, a big portion is for industry. A smaller portion is for the
consumers,
motorists. No? Dito, maghanap tayo ng paraan. Okay na ba tayong tawag dito, okay lang bang mag-import ng oil para dito sa mga motorist? Kasi yung ating industriya umaandar naman sa nuclear, sa geothermal at
Yung
sa
vital industries.
Oo.
Pero yung consuming, pwedeng maglabanan na lang sila
Oo,
doon.
depende.
Pwede.
Kaya natin, depende kung paano mangyayari. But
Because
what I mean to say is,
Less dependent tayo on oil.
right,
Right.
rather than focus on trying to put up our oil company and competing with the oil
Right.
firms,
Okay.
first, yung program,
Mm.
energy development program, nuclear. No?
Interesting. So, it's all tied up. Actually, all tied up. Pero, ang laki ng i-reverse mo ng mga policy natin.
That's why I call it reversal.
Yeah,
Reversal
reversal
talaga.
Pero, you're talking about reversing 30 years. Around 30 years of businessmen and companies making money.
Yeah, but I think
So,
the general business is going to benefit from it.
yeah,
No?
definitely.
If we reverse it, no? I also think that these oligarchs, despite the fact that they have abused the franchises given to them, no? Given another environment, they will find ways how to make money.
Yes, I
Legitimately,
agree.
no? Legitimately. At doon natin dapat gagawin. Kanya po naging ganito, nag-abuso itong mga oligarkong to. Dahil binigyan sila ng negosyo ng mga corrupt na government officials.
Yeah.
Yan mga up to the president, no? At mga politicians, no? At mga mambabatas, yan ang nagbigay ng ganitong klaseng negosyo dito sa pribado sektor. Kaya kinakailangan baligtarin natin.
Regardless.
Sabi natin, mahirap yata yun kasi mas 30 years. Well, you have to start sometime.
Right.
At kung sasabihin natin mahirap, hindi na natin gagawin, walang mangyayari sa atin. So, nandiyan na si Rodrigo Duterte. Siya kanya may protest vote na naglagay sa kanya dyan as president dahil papalitan niya ang kailangan palitan. Itong mga oligarko, pinagmumura niya. Mga magnanakaw, they are the mother of all corruption, sabi niya. Okay, if that is so, huwag kang matakot dito sa mga ito, Mr. President.
It should be simple if yun yung gusto niyong gawin, di ba?
Sana.
Because all he has to prove, or the Solgen, or the DOJ, or whoever, they have to prove that the contract was not followed.
Right.
So once the contract's not followed, wala na yung detalyeng utang or out na.
Out.
Di ba?
Out.
Simple lang
Yeah.
na ganun.
Actually, we don't have to prove it, pero they did
legal,
wrong.
yeah.
Legal. But at any time, because of the national interest,
You know,
the president is empowered. No?
what do they say about if you do this? The message to the international banks and the community. I can hear already all of these businessmen. crying about
That is
that
like,
sends a bad signal, and they will not invest, and the
Yeah.
stock market, and alam mo na.
to me, that is a bogey na parang inaano, lalong-lalo na kung hindi ka nakakaintindi.
What
no?
is a bogey?
Parang inaano, yung panakot. Parang kapre,
Bogeyman.
dadating ang kapre, no? That's a bogeyman. Akin po, yung mga yan, pag mag-nationalize ka, at pakita mo sa mga nasa labas na nakahanda kang... This is not against foreign companies, by the way.
Right.
Ha? As long as the foreign companies go to the industries that we need them.
Yeah.
No?
And the investment is long term.
And it's long term. No?
Hindi siya
Hindi yung
speculative na.
hindi na mag-i-invest. Hindi bale, umalis na sila. Bakit? Dito lang sila sa stock market Papasok nila yung $10 million nila tapos bukas aalis na dahil dala-dala yung kinita nila. It's a looting process. Ninanakaw po yung ating yaman tapos aalis na. Ang tumataya, merong mas marami syempre natatalo. Like a casino, hindi po ba?
Yeah.
Sa casino ba, magtatayo ba ang casino na mas maraming nananalo kaysa sa natatalo.
The house
Hindi po.
always wins.
The house always wins. No?
Always.
Ganyan din po yung mga yan. No? Papasok sila, papasok dahil, oy, may magandang investment dito, yung tumataas ang stocks. Pasok ka naman. Pagtaas na ng pagtaas, ikaw, no, hawak-hawak mo yung stock, umalis na ngayon sila. Wala na ngayong bibili doon sa stocks mo. No? This is what's happening.
This has
And
been
this is
happening.
the investments that these economists are scaring the president
Yes.
that will not come. Of
But-
course, mas mabuti pang hindi dumating yung mga yan kung ganyan silang klaseng investment.
Right.
Pero yung tunay na investor, matagal nang ayaw pumunta dito.
Actually,
Dahil mataas ang kuryente
yes,
natin.
yun na nga yung sasabihin ko eh. Actually, if you bring down the price of electricity,
Papasok at
you have a
papasok.
national energy program. You have a national agriculture program. 50
Right.
years
Right.
going forward. And diba it becomes more attractive for people to invest?
Right, exactly.
Kasi steady.
Right.
Forward plus ano. Pero kung ngayon, alanganin, doon lang sila sa casino. Doon lang sila
Exactly,
sa
the
mga-
casino economy. We'll take a 1-minute break. Okay, balik po tayo dito sa ating katipunan. Ito po yung katipon na si Butch Valdez. Kasama ko po si Itos Valdez. At tayo po ngayon ay tinatalakay natin. Kakatapos ko lang po basahin at i-deliver ito pong SONA 2020 ng KDP, no? Where we had about, we had 12 points. Siyempre, ang mga gusto natin ilagay, mas marami. Pero tama na itong mga unang-unang 12 points that we need to take up, and we think it's important for us to, ang ating pong tinatalakay ngayon, mostly our economic policies, no? At ang mga kinakailangan gawin, no? Para sa ating bansa. And basically, our position is we have to do these things that we are proposing immediately, now. This cannot wait anymore, no? Because we are in a very urgent and emergency situation wherein our country, for the first time in history, is facing a collapse of the economy and our health capability, no? Dahil po dito sa pandemic, tapos ang ating pong ekonomiya umaabot na po sa mga 40-45 unemployment rate. Hindi pa natin binibilang yung mga nagdadagsaan OFW na parating dahil hindi na nila kayang magtrabaho pa sa ibang bansa. Yung mga iba nga daw umuwi, nakakabaong na po. No? Kasi matagal silang walang kinakain, walang trabaho doon sa mga ibang bansa. Hindi naman makauwi, walang pamamaraan umuwi, hindi natin pinapasundo sa PAL o mga ating. So naiiwan po sila doon, walang trabaho, gutom, patay. No? Ito po ang tunay na nangyayari sa ating mga OFWs ngayon.
That's a scary social and political problem that we're looking at right now, you know, because pag wala pong trabaho ang mga kababayan natin, paano po sila mabubuhay? So that's a very serious problem we need to address, and I don't think the government has a solution for this.
I doubt, no. Nakita ko po nung minsan itong mga membro ng kabinete, nakaupo po sila doon at nagbibigay ng mga questions itong si Martin Andanar sa kanila. Yung pong mga sinasabi nila, sa akin pong palagay, parang delibro. At wala pong, para bang walang urgency, no? Walang kailanganin gawin, no? Not in the anticipation of something drastic that might happen. Alam niyo po, isa sa ating kinakailangan tunan ng pansin, agad-agad. Pag gutom po yung tao, walang trabaho, hindi po, karamihan sa kanila, hindi po sila mananatiling nakaupo at maghihintay mamatay. Out of their instincts, they will try to survive. And this is what I mean is, magiging social problem po natin yan. Kasi, tataas ang krimen, tataas ang pagnanakaw. Habang bumabagsak at lumalawak ang kagutuman, dadami po ang social problems.